Welcome to Sparks. I'm Miss Ashley and I am our Sparks coordinator. So when you are brand new to Sparks, whether you're in kindergarten, first or second grade, you're always going to start with our Flight 316. This is an awesome little booklet that goes through and has a comic talking about Jesus and God and how much God loved us and sent his son Jesus to die for us. So it has John 3:16 as the very first Bible verse that your child will be memorizing. It's broken up into little chunks so that it's easier for children to memorize as their first introduction into Awana. When you get to the very end, it will have the entire verse that the child needs to say by themselves all the way through. There's also some questions that are answered within the comic. You also have two signatures down here showing that the child has come to Awana 2 weeks in a row. Once they've completed this whole thing, they've gotten those 2 week signatures, they get to move on to their very first book. This is the hang glider book. This is the kindergarten book, or it is your first book, whether you're in first or second grade. This book needs to be finished before you can move on in first grade to your wing runner book. Once this book is done in second grade, you get to start on your Skystormer book. So in each book, they're set up very similarly. Each book starts with a spot to make sure you put your child's name so that when they leave it somewhere, we can find them. Then there's some information for the parents so that you can know what your child is doing. Once we get into it, we have John 3:16 again for your child to memorize again, and then new verses every page. Up here in the corner, there's the award that they are working to earn. Now, they have different verses and things that they need to say throughout the book. Each page has a new one with different stories underneath for them to read and you to learn with them on what this verse means. As we go through, once you get to the end of your first section, this is called the rank path, there will be a little Sparky down here saying hooray and showing you what award your child just won. In their vest, they will then receive their first patch. This patch goes underneath our Sparky logo, and then they get to keep going. Now, after you have your patch, you have different jewels. These jewels will go onto the Sparky wings, and they have different colors based on what you're working on. So they will be up here in the corner telling you what your child is working towards. This particular section that I have up is our Bring a Friend section. Now, we know that sometimes this is really hard on families to bring someone to Awana. However, we have lots of other options of helping your child to tell others about Jesus, and that's the whole goal of this section. So we have other opportunities. If you need them, your leader will have them for your child if necessary. Now, when we go through our books, sometimes there are one verse pages, like this one, and sometimes we have pages that have 2 verses on them. On those 2 verses, they both need to be said at the same time in order to get that signature. When we have awards on your vest, if you ever have any struggles on where something goes on your vest, at the back of your book, there is a page that has the vest with all of the different awards listed here so that you can see where they go on the vest if you ever have any questions. Most of the time that'll be done for you by your child's secretary, so you won't have to worry about that, but just in case you need it, those are in the back of your book. So when you're working with your child to practice their verses, you sometimes will have sections that have 1 verse and a signature, and some of them will have 2 verses with this 1 signature line. What we want out of Awana is for these children to memorize God's word so that it sticks with them for the rest of their lives. We're not trying to push to get books done and get awards. That's not the point. Our point is so that they memorize it and keep it with them as they go through their life. So how we do that is we make sure that they truly have these verses memorized before we sign off and move on to the next one. So what we do is we make sure that they only need 2 helps per signature. So before they're ready to have their leader sign it off, they need to be able to do it by themselves with only 2 helps. Now, a help can be the first letter in a word, the first sound in a word, maybe even one word. But we're not going to give them 2 or 3 words at a time because that's not really helping them. What's that's doing is just letting them move on without it being memorized. So each signature means that they only need 2 helps before they're ready for that. If they can do the whole thing without any helps, then they for sure have it and they are totally ready. But if they still only need 2 helps, that's fine too, and they're still ready to get that signed off.